Let's talk about players we love this week. Jamie, who do we love? Who's our start of the week?
DeAndre Swift. Very excited about what he did last week, and got a chance to speak to him on Tuesday. He was on Fantasy Football Today on CBS Sports HQ. Unfortunately, you cannot find that interview. We were asked to take it down afterwards because DeAndre, unfortunately, where he sat, you could see the plays behind him. So the Lions respectfully asked us to take the video down.
No way.
Understandably so. Yeah, that was fun. But he says he's healthy. I know he showed up on the injury report on Wednesday. That's not the best thing because he didn't show up on the injury report at all last week. And you remember what Dan Campbell said, that, he was looking great. But he told me he feels great. And I'm hoping that, the 51% snap share that he had, most work that he's had since week 1, over 100 total yards, scored a touchdown. Great matchup against the Vikings. They've allowed 5 running backs in their last 4 games to go over 16 PPR points, 6 touchdowns from that group. And I think it's 3 of those guys, Ramondre Stevenson, Zonovan Knight, and Tony Pollard, all over 100 total yards. So it's been a run defense that's, somewhat leaky, or at least the defense to running backs that's somewhat leaky. And hopefully DeAndre Swift takes advantage of it. I think Jamal Williams still get his touchdown. He's got 14 on the season on the ground. Shockingly enough, his entire career prior to this year, he had 13 rushing touchdowns. So I think he'll score again, but I think DeAndre Swift will be the better of the two and have a big game.
So you're not, just to reiterate, you're not bothered by the fact that he's back on the injury report?
I'm going to guess it's more of a maintenance thing because unless he was lying to me, which obviously could be the case, he said he feels great. He feels like the ankle and the shoulder are not a thing to worry about anymore. And he hopes to have more opportunities and touches like he had against the Jaguars.
Okay. Don't lie to Jamie. It's not cool. Then we'll take your interview down. Heath, who do you love this week?
I'm going to say relative to everyone else, I think I love the Broncos. And that's not a very comfortable place to be. But
including the quarterback?
Not the quarterback. Everybody else. Latavius Murray, Jerry Jeudy, Greg Dulcich. You made reference, Adam, that, we got excited about them, a month ago when they faced the Raiders. And they scored 16 points. But even in that game, which they played from ahead most of the time, and Russell Wilson only threw 31 passes, Latavius Murray had 17 fantasy points. Cortland Sutton had 13 fantasy points. It's still possible for Russell Wilson to continue to be terrible and these guys to be good. So Jerry Jeudy has been pretty fantastic this year when he's been a full-time player. In the games that he's played at least 80% of the snaps, he's averaging 14.5 PPR fantasy points per game. Latavius Murray had 4 catches in Mike Boone's first game back, so I think he's still got a role in the passing game, and the Chiefs are one of the worst in the NFL against pass-catching running backs. And they're talking about using Greg Dulcich more as a wide receiver, more downfield. I think all 3 of those guys can be good starters this week against the Chiefs. And really, if you look at their schedule, it's possible they could be good starters for most of the rest of the season.
Okay, that's definitely one of the games that we're talking about today. The other game I mentioned was the game against the Titans. It's coming off the Broncos bye. The Titans had basically half their starting defense out, and they were awful. I mean, they were just that may have been the game where Jerry Jeudy got hurt though after one play. I don't remember. But yeah, the Broncos have let us down before. But okay, it's bold. I mean, Jeudy seems actually like somebody I'm going to be telling everyone to start. Where do you guys have him? I could just imagine all the Jerry Jeudy questions pouring in on Sunday, and I'm going to be like, Jeudy, start Jeudy, and then I'm going to hate myself. But where do you have him ranked?
20th?
I'm adjusting my rankings this morning, and he'll probably be close to 15.
Okay. So I guess everyone's going to be on the same page there. Players to avoid. Keith, how you feeling? You want to go first here, or you want to?
Yeah. I've got a controversial one that I'm going to talk about on CBS Sports HQ at noon Eastern today. I'm pretty worried about Najee Harris. I hate the fact that Jaylen Warren came back and Najee Harris's role in the passing game completely disappeared. He's basically right in that Isaiah Pacheco group of guys who might get you 20 carries, might not catch a pass. The problem is he's playing a Ravens team in a game that has an over-under of 37. So a very likely 20-carry, 80-yard, 8 fantasy point game is possible for Najee Harris. I would like to not start him. Even with 6 teams on a bye, he's not a top 24 running back for me this week, and I would start Latavius Murray over Najee Harris.
And just to keep going, just to keep it going with the running backs you love. I mean, I know you guys are going to start Swift over him. Are you going to start Jamal Williams over Najee Harris?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, and you said 20 carries. There have actually only been 3 running backs with more than 14 carries against the Ravens. One of them was Latavius Murray last week, and I do wonder if that stat's not really going to hold up if Lamar Jackson's not playing. They're just not going to be able to possess the ball as much, but the Ravens see the 3rd fewest running back carries in the NFL per game. So it's a terrible matchup. Their run defense has been unbelievable since they acquired Roquan Smith. Wasn't bad even before that. So, yeah, okay. Najee Harris, someone you should try to avoid for Latavius Murray and Jamal Williams. I will say Jamal Williams, we're not going to talk about him today. That's on tomorrow's show. But Jamal Williams absolutely terrifies me because he had, 11 carries last week? He has to score. He's not getting the 15, 16 anymore.
I think it's a question of what you expect with the touchdown, because at this point, you never want to predict touchdowns, but he's pretty predictable at this point, So I think you give him 6, and then you give him 20 yards on top of that, 30 yards on top of it.
It's funny.
I mean, that's
guess the 2 teams that give up the most rushing touchdowns from the 2-yard line or closer.
The Vikings and the Lions.
Correct. Is that funny? They're facing.
Well, and that's the other thing is, like I mentioned the over-under in that Baltimore-Pittsburgh game. There's a 15-point difference between these 2 games in terms of over-under. One of them's 37, the other one's 52.
All right, Jamie, who are you avoiding?
Did it go down?
What's that?
I thought it was 53. Did it go down?
It may have. I haven't checked it this morning, so it may be 53.
Who are you avoiding, Jamie?
I'll stick with the same position. Dameon Pierce. It's a brutal matchup against the Cowboys, and I know obviously same thing with Najee Harris. There's 6 teams on a bye. It's hard to bench these guys, so I get it. It's hard to get them out of your lineup. But we saw what this was like for Dameon Pierce before facing the Browns, the previous 2 games against 2 good run defenses of the Commanders and the Dolphins, and he stunk. And the Cowboys' run defense has been pretty awesome. So if they're behind, which I expect they will be, and his role in the passing game is somewhat there, but you're talking maybe 3 catches at most. I'm nervous about him, so he hasn't scored a touchdown in what seems like forever. I think it's week 4 since the last time he found the end zone. And so lack of scoring, minimal work in the passing game, rushing yards could be at a minimum here. So I think it's back to where we were 2 weeks ago, where he could be in a bad spot.
All right, so are you guys going to start Cam Akers over Najee Harris or Dameon Pierce?
I'm not there yet.
No.
But, again, whenever we say things like this, I don't want to speak for Heath. I'll speak for myself. But, because I'm with Heath on Najee as well, that you can't bench these guys this week. It's virtually impossible. You have to have just the perfect type of roster construction to be able to get away from guys that are getting the ball 15 plus times. But it's just, like when I put him in the sit section of start sit, Heath in what he writes and Dave as well, you have to sort of understand, like, we're just telling you to lower your expectations, because again, if you're lucky enough to play, to have guys like I go back to Jeff Wilson over those 2 guys, for example.
Yep.
Because I like the setup that he has against the Chargers, and it's risky because he got 1 carry last week, and Raheem Mostert may be better, but I just think, looking at it logically, there's a better chance for guy against Chargers versus guy against Cowboys or guy against Ravens. And if the workload is similar, I think the guy with the better matchup is always going to win out.